Hi, everyone. Hi, Tony.
Hey, Yolanda.
So, I want to welcome everyone to our first Sound Particles Talks. Okay, our very casual live stream. I'm joining you from our very own headquarters in Portugal, sunny Portugal, right behind me. And Tony is joining you from LA. Is it sunny over
Hello,
there?
everyone. It is very sunny. It's a beautiful day. And like Yolanda said, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. This will be one of the hopefully many live streams we will be doing, talking about everything sound, right? So we are a small group of people, like Yolanda said, mostly based in Portugal. I'm based here in Los Angeles. And we are passionate about anything and everything sound and music. And we will be talking all that real soon.
So, just a warning, this is our first live stream. So, if there are technical problems, they're definitely on purpose. Don't worry about it. um, you feel free to ask questions along the way. We'll do our best to answer them. Just please stay on topic so that we don't derail and talk about energy panel for 5 hours, okay?
All right.
um, that's the only thing I ask. Um, let's talk a little bit about our topic first. So, our topic for today is why using motion in audio and music matters. And this
Mhm.
is actually a topic that's very close to our heart as a company. Tony, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I I will jump in. So I will start with two things. One, I want to give a huge shout out to all the developers and engineers we have here at Sound Particles who make our amazing products, right? So thank you to everyone who works hard here at Sound Particles. And yes, so as Yolanda said, we will be discussing a very specific topic, the psychology and art of movement, why using motion in audio and music matters, right? So uh, questions are more than welcome. Try to keep them on topic. We will try to answer other technical or workflow related questions separately when we can. So, with that, let's just jump in, right?
Yeah?
Most of these things people have been using, right? So, if you mix or produce music or sound design, you've been already using pan to move things, volume to add depth or distance. What we're trying to understand or comprehend today is why you do that, or why all of us as engineers or mixers do that. So let's start with a small story. Once upon a time in 1999, there was an experiment at Harvard. So the experiment was very simple, done by two psychologists. Every participant was shown a video, as you can read in the bullet point. In the short video, you see six people walking around the screen, three wearing black shirts, three wearing white shirts, and they were passing balls to each other. As a participant, you are asked to keep count of white people, people with a white shirt passing balls to each other. That was your task. And it's a pretty intense thing for your brain because you had to count and keep watching. During the video, a person dressed as a gorilla strolls into the video, stands in the middle of the screen, stumps the chest, walks off screen. And we all would think, I would surely have seen it. Guess what? 50% of the people actually did not see the gorilla at all. This became a major phenomenon in the psychology field. There's actually a book about this. Look it up. The study was done in 99 by Simmons and Chabres, as I've mentioned in the slide. So why did that happen? So it turns out through studies we have found out this is called inattentional blindness or selective attention. Okay, that's cool. It's about vision. What does it have to
That
do with
sounds like
sound?
something that happens to me when I'm watching TV and I'm just too into it.
There you go. Maybe that was intentional by the artist and the director, right? So, so then the question becomes: you're watching TV. There's picture and sound. How does our brain respond to sound? Is there a similar effect to sound in our brain? Turns out there is, and it's very easy to prove to all of you right now. You all have been in parties or in a group of people, and the moment you look at someone, your brain immediately locks your ears to that conversation, even if it's a big group. This is actually called cocktail party effect, right? It's a blessing and a curse, right? The blessing is that you actually have the ability to tune your ears to maybe two people standing 10 feet away with people in the middle of you. Your brain just ignores the conversation happening right in front of you when you choose to focus on someone 10 or 15 feet away from you, right? The curse is, as many studies have shown, the rejected speech or rejected sounds are as good as if they don't exist, right? So our brain is actually very laser focused, as if it only has a very thin sliver of focus, one thing at a time. Contrary to popular belief, our brain cannot multitask very well.
I got questions.
Go
Okay.
for it.
So my background is, as you know, is I'm a filmmaker. So usually my brain always goes to that. I know all of our products and everything always also apply to music, and all of this also applies to music. But I always, always my first thought is, if I'm watching a movie, and if I'm listening to sound, how does this apply? So if we're talking about things going unnoticed and sounds that you kind of tune out, do you think that most sound design actually just goes unnoticed? Or if we're so focused on the story and if we're just paying attention to what's going on, does all that work? Do we just tune it out? Or is it actually doing something in our brain?
No, it does lots of things to our brain. So we are experiential beings, right? We experience our world through all our senses, including sound, taste, vision, all that stuff. Specifically to sound. So let's imagine we have a party scene with 50 people and there's one person talking, there's a dialogue. The crowd sound, yes, your brain is passively ignoring, at the same time it adds to the experience. Imagine a crowd scene where the lead actor only is speaking, there's no crowd sound. Your brain's like, that doesn't sound real, it sounds fake. So it's almost like saying, I have the two plates of the same dish. One is plated well, the other one is just tossed onto the plate. Both are the same dishes, but your experience enjoying that dish will be two different experiences, right? So yes, our brain only focuses on one specific thing, but it has peripheral focus on everything around it. So nothing goes to waste. That's where the artist comes in. The artist can actually, we will talk about this more down the line, but the artist has the ability to use sounds to pull the focus of our brain and say, hey, I want you to look here because this is where the art is happening right now. But the other sounds accentuate and enrich the whole experience.
So you don't think, and I'm just throwing balls here, you don't think that our brain just rejects these sounds because it doesn't think it's important? Or does it stay somewhere and then later on you can maybe play around with it as a sound designer, bring sounds back that maybe even if your brain ignored it, it will still recognize it and you can make plays with it? Or does it just...
No, it actually, that's a good example for that is songs. So let's say you have a favorite song you listen to 200 times, right? And you would think, haven't you had these moments where you heard it 100 times, then suddenly you're like, wait, I never heard that specific guitar phrase before. Why is that?
Yeah, all
Right?
the time.
So it's the same reason. When you first hear it, so my background is engineering and mixing music. So as a mixer, one of my jobs is to pull focus to the right instrument or the right vocals at the right time. And I have my methods to do that, which again, we will talk about in a minute. But when you listen to a track for the first time, your brain is pulled towards those things that the artist wanted you to listen. After listening to it like 10 or 20 times, your brain is sensitized with that element. It starts looking for something that it did not notice before, but it's been in the background all the time. And then you're like, aha, I discovered that. 10 days or 10 years later, you might listen to the same track and discover a new element because your brain is now so used to the vocals and the drums by now.
Right, it actually
So
has a
for
chance to discover something new within the thing that you
exactly.
already loved.
Correct. So all these layers matter. I'm not saying they do not matter. They matter, but at the same time, we need to be aware how our brain works, which is a good segue to our next slide. So why is our brain doing that? So one, it has very limited resources, right? It needs to be very energy efficient. I'm not going to the biology of brain right now, but these are facts and proven by different studies by experts in the field. So to stay energy efficient and to maintain those limited resources, the brain does two main things. One, habits are run on autopilot. That's why it's very hard to break a habit because you don't think actively about a habit. May it be a good habit or a bad habit. Same with sounds. the easy way to save energy when it comes to sounds is actually to ignore known sounds. What does that mean? Predictable and ongoing sounds. The best example is heartbeat. Your heart is beating inside you all the time. Now that I mention it, you are suddenly hearing your heartbeat. But it's been coming to ears all this time, but your brain chose to ignore it. Same with TikTok of a clock, right? Because it's there all the time. Your brain is like, yeah, it's been there, it's safe, right? A car engine sound when you're driving. How often do you focus on a car engine sound when you're actively driving? You don't even think about it. With that said, if your heart starts beating faster or very slow, you will be focused on it. If your
Yeah.
clock starts going very fast, you will notice it. So anything that is not predictable, your brain will immediately latch back on it. And why is it doing that? Goes back to human evolution. So just like that picture, when our ancestors lived in forests and stuff, our brain had to make sure the environment is safe. Especially in a forest, your vision is limited. So sounds, any sound that move immediately triggers the is it a predator, right? The brain has to analyze that. And another study from 2005 has shown that there's novelty detector neurons. So our brain needs something new. And I think the last a couple decades, if anything that's proven it is social media, we need something new every second now, don't we?
Yeah.
Right? So the novelty detector neurons actually work with everything, visuals and audio, right? So if a sound is steady and is predictable, these neurons will actually go back to sleep to save energy because they are known sounds, they're safe. But the moment there's a small change, they will start firing up again. And what changes can you add to sound? Pitch, loudness, duration, spatial location, movement. Because movement is one of the higher ones, because the moment you hear something move, the brain thinks, oh, is it a predator? Right?
Right.
And that's why, light bulb,
Love that.
right? How can we use this when we do sound design, when we do music, right? So remember, we spoke about cocktail party effect. The downside about this effect is that anything that's rejected, we pretty much draw zero information. And most of you attending this live stream have been doing this already in music and sound design. You always automated volume. We've always automated pan, right? Why? Because if you look at this very example, I was automating the instrument just a bit to get the brain's attention. Oh, it suddenly got loud. And then I can pull it back because my brain is already locked in, right? Same with pan, same with movement. So we all have been doing this. And what we are discussing here is the why behind you have been automating volume, pan, and all these things all these years. This is why you've been doing this, right? This is the psychology behind it. This is why it works on the brain. Speaking of motion, here at Sound Particles, we make two different sets of products, if you will, right? Some of you may be aware, some of you may be not. So I'm just going to give a bird's eye view. The first one we make is Sound Particles, the standalone software, which is all about motion, right? We create sound sources that can actually move in a three-dimensional space. Let it be mono or stereo, ideally stereo, right? For to perceive movement, it's much better. So stereo all the way up to binaural or ambisonics or Dolby Atmos, we got motion, which I think will be a good point for maybe Yolanda to give us a quick history about our company. Would you mind, Yolanda?
Oh. Yeah, I can give you a quick history. Just before we go too far, I do want to just point out a few comments that I think are really great for the conversation we just had. So, apologies if I pronounce any name wrong. I'm going to excuse myself with, I'm Portuguese, okay? So, Antonino said, if the sound is diegetic, we assume it is natural for certain sounds to be there. We give them for granted. But actually, if you take them off the mix, you miss something.
Correct, because it is not experienced anymore. Absolutely.
And then we have Alex Promix, which you did a video with. Hi, Alex.
Hey, Alex.
And he mentioned, hence turning out the water drip in the background.
Exactly, right? But at the same time, if you made that water drop louder for a split second, then pull it back, the brain would have noticed it and then latches onto it. until the brain has another distraction to go to, or if the water stays static, at that point also your brain looks for something new. So yeah, and just to add on to that one specific comment, this is one way brilliant filmmakers have used sound to point attention to a specific part of the screen where action might not be visually happening. Right, there might be movement happening the right side of the screen, but they wanted to look at the left sound. What's a good way to do that? Add a sound. So yeah, brilliant comment, Alex.
We also have Fotis and stuff who really wanted to talk about the Doppler effect. So maybe we'll tackle that.
We will. Again, this is only one of the very. This is the just the first of the live streams we'll be doing. We won't be going deep into Doppler, but one thing I will point out: the screenshot you're looking at is actually from the standalone sound particles application, and unless you disable it, you actually have Doppler effect happening on every single particle. And keep in mind, every single particle is a sound source. So here at Sound Particles, we believe in experiential sound design, and that's what we excel at. We won't be looking at the plugins today. We will look at the Sound Particles application, but in the next live streams, we will be going through some of the plugins we make, which are exceptionally good in stereo. Says our customers, not just me. I am also a user myself. I love these plugins. So one thing that these plugins do very well is movement in stereo or in multi-channel. So if you're mixing in Dolby Atmos or 5.1 or any spatial format, we got you covered for motion, right?
But here's the thing. I'm just going to say something, okay?
Uh-huh.
Because like I mentioned, I'm a filmmaker. My focus was never sound, okay? I learned the basics, but it wasn't my focus. When I learned about Sound Particles, the company, I lived in Canada for a few years. I worked there in the film industry. I moved back home. I had heard from Sound Particles years ago when it was just a baby. It wasn't even a company yet, because Nuno, our CEO, used to be a professor in university, okay? And my boyfriend at the time, now fiance, used to be his student. And he came home one day and was like, oh my God, my professor is building this software that makes sound design really easy. And he went to all the Hollywood studios and now they all want to use it. And he came home so excited to tell me because he knew I was into film and whatever. And that's when I first heard about it, okay? Years later, like 7 years later, I moved back home to Portugal. And I get a job here, okay?
There you go.
So that's pretty much the start of Sound Particles. It was just like the solo standalone software with Sound Particles. It's a software you can create 3D audio in a fully 3D native world, which makes it incredibly easy. And this is coming from someone who knows a little bit of Pro Tools, all the basics, but does not do intrinsic complex sound designs. But I find myself having a lot of fun, and I find it really easy and really quick to create something that makes me look like a pro, okay?
Absolutely.
With barely like any work. And that's what I love about Sound Particles.
Absolutely. That's the feedback we've had from other customers too. I had one customer tell me that what he likes the most about our plugins is that we took so much complex left-hand stuff like panning, complex panning and complex movements, and made it a very easy to use right brain plugin. So when you're in a creative moment, your right brain takes more focus and the left brain kind of goes on standby because it's a more analytical brain, right? So what our plugin does is allows you to do crazy left brain stuff by using your right brain so you can stay creative. And speaking of our history as a company, correct me if I'm wrong, Yolanda, but I believe Nuno has a PhD in particle systems, correct, for animation?
Wait, I don't...
That's okay. Again, hey.
Is this
hey, listen, this is a casual conversation. But yes, he does.
I don't know what his PhD is.
He is amazing at what he does, and that's how Sound Particles was born, right? And speaking of motion, the next and the last slide, I promise, the last slide I have, we spoke about motion. How do we use it to our advantage when designing sounds? So within Sound Particle, the standalone software, which we are going to jump into in a moment, you actually have the ability to add discrete movement to each particle, which is a sound source, mind you, or the emitter itself. The emitter is the source from which these particles are being generated. So you have the flexibility to make either of these things move, either in a straight line or in a rotation. You can also add velocity and acceleration, either in straight line or rotational movements. With that said, let's jump into
I have
sound
a question.
particles.
Hold on. Hold
Uh-huh.
on.
All
You're not
right.
going anywhere. Okay. So, even myself, especially with our plugins are really fun to use and you can do a lot of stuff really easily. Sometimes I find myself going too far. So, how can we balance using all this motion, okay, but without taking away from the story? So, like, or music, also music. Where's the fine line?
That's where you will shine as an artist, right? So we create the tools and we make you aware of why these things happen. That's why we spoke about the brain and the psychology. So mixing for music alone, let it be in stereo or mixing for Atmos, which is a new thing now, right? The advantage and the disadvantage is that you don't have a screen, right? There's nothing to distract you from. The whole 360 canvas is yours. So you can go
Right.
as crazy as you want, but at the same time, what are you trying to feature? If you have everything moving, which we are going to look into this example in a moment, then the brain also thinks, wait a minute, everything is moving. I'm giving up. Right? So it's
Right.
about being creative and deciding what needs to move and what shouldn't move. Right? So overdoing it won't help, absolutely. So for music, I personally feel it depends on the genre. If it's a classical piece and if we have the brass section flying around, it's like, what just happened? Right? It doesn't feel realistic or natural, or at least to what we are used to.
Or like
For
there's a
someone,
purpose to it, maybe.
exactly. I mean, if someone who has never been to an orchestra, a live concert, might not find it that odd, but since we all,
Right.
most of us have been, we have an expectation to a
Right.
classical piece, how it should be presented. And when it comes to EDM or other pop genres, then you have all the freedom. But even then, keep in mind there are some things that your brain might just go, huh? What was that? And maybe you want to do that, which in that case, that's fine, right? Coming to movies, one thing I've learned mixing music for movies is that you are there to add to the screen and not to distract from the screen, right?
Right.
So because you're trying to complement, supplement the story instead of taking away from it. People shouldn't just look to the side and say, hey, what was that sound when they're
Right.
watching a movie, right? So it's all about exploring all these tools to your benefit and to your piece of art, right? And I think that's where the challenge and the unique opportunities live. So I don't have a magic bullet answer for that, but that's where I think all of you should download Sound Particles, take it for a spin,
Nice.
and let us know what you come out with, right? So I'm going to hit play first. Okay, so I have an example here. I have two tracks in Sound Particles, right? So the first track is called Animals. I have some source files. It is going to create 25 particles. The next one is going to create 60 particles, and there is no movement. Okay. Right now, I'm going to play the same thing with everything moving. Let's see the difference. Now the same thing with only one track moving, the other one staying static. Right? So the same example, three different alternatives, and none of this is better than the other per se, unless you have a reference point or unless you have a specific goal. So depending on what you're trying to achieve, you can actually go in and add movement modifiers. So this is where you actually add all those movement modifiers. So you select a track, it can be an emitter or a particle group. Then you can choose to have rotation velocity, you can add straight line velocity, or acceleration, and then even further fine tune these parameters. This is
That's
where
where
it
it's
gets
too
very
much for
powerful.
me. There's too many options now.
Yes. But that's also the beauty, right? So if you want to keep it very simple and if you want to start something from scratch, you could literally just start a brand new canvas. You can choose a template, right? You can choose an empty template, or if you're trying for something musical, we even have a template where you can actually have it generate a minor chord based on random sound. You can hit OK, create it, throw in an audio file, hit render, and you will have sound design immediately. You don't have to tweak anything,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So for a filmmaker who might not be that audio focused, this is an easy way to record some sound using their phone or a recorder, throw it in here, hit render, you have something created in Spatial. One thing I want to add in conclusion is that Sound Particles by design is a 3D spatial audio workstation. So this is a three-dimensional space where we create all these sound sources, which means you can actually throw in a stereo mic and capture it just in stereo or in mono or ambisonics, or if you want to get a Dolby Atmos bed out of it, you can actually go in here, choose the format of your choice, or even enter a custom format. So let's say you're doing an installation with 58 speakers and 14 subs. Sure, we got you covered. So everything you create is created in three-dimensional space by design. So movement sounds very realistic. So your brain doesn't freak out and say, that doesn't sound right. It will sound right because we've created everything in space.
So we could bring a bunch of mono files in here,
Absolutely.
add a bunch of emotion, and then we can export it. It doesn't have to be in mono because we can export it in whatever.
Correct. So in this example, I have a stereo mic. I can add a new microphone, right? And this can be in mono. And actually, I can even place the mic somewhere else. So it sounds like a different take. And then I can have another mic. And this can be in 5.1 if I wanted to, right? Let's do that. And then I place this mic here. And I once I hit render, it will take some time because I'm on Zoom right now. But all these stems will render at the same time, and you'll have a mono, a stereo, and a 5.1 stem in this single pass. And if you're doing some complex sound design, you can actually generate batch processing. So you actually have multiple takes of these microphones. So sound particles can be very useful for someone who's brand new to it, right? It's very user friendly. But if you also want to go complex and deal with all the maths, be our guest. We have all those things for you as well.
Just want to remind people to just keep the questions to the topic. If it's more technical questions or something that's slightly off topic, you can DM us directly and we'll get the answer to you. We don't want to clutter the live stream with a bunch of questions, then we'll be here for 5 hours.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, the live stream, I think it's been enjoyable so far. I hope everyone enjoyed as well. We aim to keep it around 30 minutes and looks like we are right on time. But if there's more questions, we are more than happy to stay and discuss.
Now is the time to ask all the questions. I do want to tell you, we do have a gift for you for being here in our live stream with us and keeping us company. You can get 30% off in our store right now.
Yes.
Go buy all the products right now. Okay, this is an exclusive discount for you because you're here with us, keeping us company. Okay, just use that code SPTalks on your checkout. You're welcome.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you everyone for your support. And
Yeah.
like I said earlier, download sound particles too, right? Throw in some sounds, send us stuff that you create. We would love to listen. And
Yeah.
if you have any thoughts on how you used motion, if you want to share with us or have any questions even after this live stream, feel free to contact us. We are always here to help. We love feedback. Excuse me.
We
We
do.
absolutely thrive on feedback. So keep them coming.
We actually, this is like a real thing. Every email that we receive, it actually gets to the right people for them to see, even if it takes a while to get things done. We are a small team. But we do really appreciate feedback. Our CEO is a big fan of it. We are also a company very focused on education. We really believe in this whole thing of just talking about sound, and especially 3D audio. If you don't know, we actually have a free ebook about all you need to know about 3D audio. So if you're a little scared of this world because you don't know all of it, you can read the ebook. It's completely free. It's on our website. I'm sure Mariana, our social media helper, will put the link for you to download it. It's in 7 languages so far, with more to come. So we really want to get it out there for you guys. All of our products have free trials that you can try, also on our website. What else?
Well,
Listen, this is our office right now. All the sound is our office. You're with us at the headquarters, okay? There's things falling. That's just the way it is.
Just particles falling. Come on.
Yeah. This is sound design.
Indeed, this motion, sounds in motion. But yeah, in conclusion, I just want to add, as a user, as an engineer mixer myself, I firmly believe our products create a genuine natural sounding motion, plugins and sound particles. Don't take my word for it. Like Yolanda said, download the trials, the demos, and check them out, hear it and believe it.
This code that I gave you is applicable to all products, okay? Everything that's on our website, you can use it. All the plugins, that code will apply to all of them. So you don't have to worry about that.
Cool.
Any last questions before we go, everybody? This is it. Our aim is to be doing this more frequently. So we'll have all different kinds of topics about sound. You can also feel free to give us ideas on topics you'd like to hear us talk about. We'll have more people join us. It won't just be me and Tony. Okay, we'll have people from our QA team, our testers. Hopefully down the line, even some of our developers can join us in these talks. Maybe our CEO, if he's not super busy.
And our users too.
Exactly. And for sure, share with us your projects. We love seeing what you guys create, and we love sharing them with our community on our social media, and so people can really see how people use the products. Because even how we think we use them, that's not how you guys use them. And you guys give us a lot of ideas on how to use our own products, because there's so many possibilities. So
yeah, exactly. So feedback of any kind, product ideas or feature requests or any issues you might have, workflow questions, we are here to help. Let's create sounds and music together. So thank you everyone for joining once again. This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
It has. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.